vision, two sides of the story. 3 strikes and you out, one way to give glory. The numbers game add up, spit things you can't back up. But waiting for applause for me, get you clapped up. A Mack truck, get up, smash it through area codes. 18 wheels of skills in this hard road. They ain't heavy, they my brothers, I'm pulling the payload. Writing raps in my phone while driving through time zones.
With the notifications muted so I can focus when I do it. Airplane mode, so I look into the unknown and fly through it. Uninterrupted and in the zone, so inspiration infuses what I come up with. Each bar of the movement is conducted with care. For what you hear in the end, the ensemble's directed by the baton through every stroke of my pen. With each crescendo, the tempo increases, dynamics of freedom giving new meaning to these releases.
Pieces of a past that exist out of time. Snippets of a song with no reason or rhyme. Flashes of memories photographic in nature. Still shots profiling the face of behavior. And little shards of glass, I see my reflection familiar. But broken and alone, there's no connection and I'm puzzled. I've always been a big picture dude, but little piece, a little thing is all there is to view. My past is a blur, future is out of focus. But in this moment of clarity, here I found my opus. A song for the hopeless, symphony of empathy, timpani of sympathy. Harmonic is the melody, a classical rendition. Masterful composition, beautiful, it's life. Business as usual. Tell it.
I can tell.
Tell it.
Let me explain something.
Tell it.
I can tell.
Let your life tell it. Tell it.
I can tell.
Tell it. Tell it. Let your life tell it.
Bet your bottom dollar I'ma wreck your terracotta.
What's going on, y'all? What's going on?
While I diss your alma mater. Mother, son, or daughter.
Let me stop this here. Let me stop this here before I get all wild out here and waste time. Welcome to the live stream. This is the Renewed Thoughts live stream. This is the first live stream. This is the pilot live stream. If you guys are tuning in, thank you again for tuning in. Again, like I said, this is going to be a little different than the Renewed Mind podcast live stream. If you guys tune into that as well, I've been waiting for almost a month now to do this. If you don't know who I am, my name is Dr. Luther Smith, but you can call me Luther for this particular podcast here, or this live stream. I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to switch my thinking here from the podcast to the live stream here. So I mentioned to you this is going to be a little bit informal. You're going to get all of the quirks, all of the things that get edited out of the podcast. You're going to get here on the live stream. I wish I can edit it on the fly, but I am the host as well as the producer here. So I have no team. I have no crew. It's just me here. So let's just go ahead and jump right into this and let me tell you what the purpose of this is all about. Look, we got a problem. We got a real big problem. And you might be like, well, what do you mean? No, I don't have a particular problem. Well, you might not have a particular problem personally, okay? I have tons of problems, not personally, but just problems, all right? I got tons of them, all right? But we got a problem. We have a problem, particularly within evangelicalism, American evangelicalism, Christian evangelicalism. I'm sounding the alarm, all right? What is the problem? Well, the problem is we got low-hanging fruit people. Low-hanging fruit people who can't seem to think beyond the hand that they have. What are you talking about? What do you mean? What I mean is this: if we believe that the biblical worldview impacts everything, right? That God by his word has a lot to say, particularly in terms of culture, media, entertainment, philosophy, science. I know that there's a lot of people out there who don't think that God has a lot to say about science, but God does. Oh yeah, by the way, I will have the chat open. If you guys want to chat and you want to comment on things, please do so. I got a comment here from Michael already right out the gate, right out the chute. Thanks again, Michael, for tuning in. I appreciate it. He writes, false Andrew Wilson. We have our today's topic is going to be about Andrew Wilson. Yes, we got to address Andrew Wilson. We got to do it. And I'm going to tell you why this is important, okay? He says, Andrew Wilson is a false convert. I will never forget how he belittled and instituted and insulted a former OF model that turned to Christ. I believe, I don't remember her name. But I think she went on an interview, I think, with Michael Knowles, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, we'll get to that. We got tons of things to talk about. All because she was not some theological giant in the newness of her faith. Yes, Andrew Wilson he mentions it himself. He's an entertainer, right? He entertains people first, right? And I'm going to try to demonstrate that in this episode, in this first episode. We're jumping right out the gate and talking about Andrew Wilson. So I'll get to him in a second. If you would like to comment in the chat, thank you once again, Michael, for commenting on it. I really, really appreciate that. But yes, I got a lot to say about him, about Mr. Andrew. Matter of fact, I got a lot to say about a lot of people. So let me tell you about the purpose of this live stream. Okay, Michael, if you're listening, let me tell you the purpose here. Okay, tune in. You with me? Okay, I know you're with me here. Okay, the purpose of this live stream, the Renewed Thoughts live stream, is to challenge and to observe, even agree and disagree with these individuals, particularly within this space. They call it the red pill space. By extension, it's the manosphere space. We're going to be talking a little bit about that mostly. But we are covering like just about anything under the sun here on the Renewed Thoughts live stream. So we're covering philosophy. We're covering ethics. We're covering basically the things that I don't cover on the Renewed Mind podcast. We're covering here. We're covering entertainment. We're going to cover just everything under the sun. Okay, so that's kind of the idea here for this particular live stream. And I want to mention something that you mentioned too, Michael, in your comments. It is very, very important that when a person expresses that they are a believer, when you become a Christian, you don't exactly know the theological subjects right away. You kind of have to grow into it. You know what I mean? And so it's not necessarily our job to act as the human barometer. We have to, we are to grow, right? We got to grow, right? You don't just come prepackaged as an adult or prepackaged. Once you become a believer, you don't know all of the theological things right away. You kind of have to grow into it. That's kind of the idea, right? The Bible is a big book, right? And there's a lot of things, right, that you have to unlearn and learn and remind yourself and all these types of things, right? I can remember when I was first a believer, there are things that I believed 10 years ago that I don't believe now. I shiver if I could go back to a time machine, if I can get into a time machine and go back 10 years from 10 years before, 10 years ago from now, right? And see myself teaching, I probably would scream. I would scream out the way. I'd scream and run out of the room, right? I'm like, why did I even believe that? I'd probably go up and slap myself, right? And go, you idiot. That's not what the Bible teaches, right? So we have to be, I think we have to be a little bit more gracious, right? We will be covering Andrew Wilson and that particular aspect of what Michael had mentioned in his comments. So we will definitely address that for sure, because I want to get into that later on here. But this live stream exists for this purpose. Who is gatekeeping the gatekeepers? Who's doing that? Who's gatekeeping the gatekeepers, right? I remember one time I was having a conversation, right? And again, if you don't know these names, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it, right? if I was sitting down, I was sitting down with a friend of mine, and we were talking. I think we were like at a bar and grill or something like that, and we were talking about the state of Christianity and even the millennials and the Gen Zers and all that, and where they're learning and where they're getting their information from, and all of these things. And I had posed a question to this friend of mine, and I said to him, I said, how many people do you think, if I were to say the word Jean Calvin, the name Jean Calvin, how many people would know about that? And my friend kind of laughed and said, probably nobody. I said to him, I said, okay. I said, if I were to go up to a millennial, any type of millennial or Gen Z, or who was a believer, and I asked them, do you know who Charles Stanley is? And they kind of shrugged their shoulders and said, well, I don't know. I said, okay, let me ask you another question. If I were to walk up to a Gen Z or anybody, right, and I were to ask you who, if they knew who Charles Ryrie was. Charles Ryrie was a theologian. Okay? They would have no clue who Charles Ryrie was. But if I went to a millennial, a Gen Z, or particularly a male Gen Z or a millennial, and I asked them, do you know who Andrew Tate is? They would know who Andrew Tate is. They would know exactly who he is. And if I asked them, do you know who Brian Atlas is? They would know who Brian Atlas is. Or if I asked them, do you know who Andrew Wilson is? They would know who Andrew Wilson is. They would know exactly who he is. Now, why is this important? This is important because a lot of people are not getting their theology from the people of old, right? They're not getting their theology from that, from these individuals. As a matter of fact, a lot of individuals, whether we know it or not, whether we like it or not, or believe it or not, they're getting their theological positions from people like Andrew Wilson, people like Myron Gaines of Fresh and Fit, people like Walter Weeks of Fresh and Fit, the other half of Fresh and Fit, the one that other people, the one that people don't like. Walter Weeks is it is awesome. Yes, Ryrie's basic theology. You were right about this, Michael. Ryrie's basic theology was really helpful, and I'm glad it was helpful to you as a new believer. It was certainly helpful to me, right? But I learned about Ryrie's basic theology like 10 years ago, right? How many millennials, particularly those who are Christian, have read Ryrie's basic theology, and who continues to look into Ryrie's basic theology? That's what I'm saying, is the pulse of the culture for those who are younger, or who come from a different generation. They're getting their information from seemingly different sources, but their theology, most part, is coming from these individuals who they look up to in their social media feeds. That is the challenge. And so in this long-winded monologue that I am giving here, basically what I'm saying is that the culture, for the most part, has turned and looked to these people to give them every sort of information from this under the sun. That includes biblical information. Yes, indeed. We got another comment here. Yes, let's go, chat. Introduce yourselves. Let me know if you're here. Let me know your name. Let me know where you're coming from. Again, give me give me some feedback. Again, this is the first episode, guys. I'm here for you guys. I'm here for you, Michael, I'm here for you. I'm here for you, man. And I want you to enjoy yourself. And we'll just continue to look at the chat here. So, okay. Yes, we have entered into the influencer area of Christianity. You are influenceanity. How about that? Influenceanity is insanity. Influenceanity is insanity. That is right. Let's turn our attention to the screen here to Andrew Wilson. Andrew Wilson, please step up. step up to the congregation. Andrew Wilson, I'd like to talk to you about something. Yes, we got to talk. Andrew Wilson, let me pull up my screen here, and let's get it cracking. Andrew Wilson, please. I'd like to invite you. Please come on up to the stage. I'd like to talk to you about something. Yes, there he goes. There goes Mr. Wilson. Mr. Wilson. Oh, give me 1 second here. Let me throw it up here again. I apologize for. There we go. Now we're cooking. Now we're cooking with Crisco. Okay, here we go. Let me move this over here to my screen here so I could blow it up full screen so you get the full effect. Yes, there he goes. There he goes. Hold on for just a second, chat. 1 minute here. We're getting this all set up together here. There he goes. There's.
I've read most of the Old Testament. I haven't finished it. Some of the new one, but when it comes to science and religion, I know that's always like such a.
Hang on for a second, lady. We got you. We got you going on here. There we go. Okay.
Up to 3, there'd be.
That's enough out of you, Andrew. We haven't gotten to you yet. Okay, so here we go. Here we go. Let's kind of set the stage here. This is the Whatever podcast. If you're not familiar with Andrew Wilson is a Eastern Orthodox believer. Okay, he is part of the Eastern Orthodox tradition, and he does mention this in this particular episode. The Whatever podcast is massive. It is massive. They hail about, I would say, 4.5 million followers. Okay, and they get hundreds of thousands of views. They run a tight ship over there at the Whatever podcast with the host whose name is Brian Atlas. Brian Atlas, he's been around for a long time. He's been doing content for a long time. And of course, we have Fresh and Fit out on the East Coast in Florida. Brian Atlas and the team over at the Whatever podcast saw what Fresh and Fit was doing there and how influential it was, and they decided to take this format from Fresh and Fit and put it here at the Whatever podcast, and they exploded, particularly during the time of the during 2020 to 2022 when everybody was locked in their houses. You guys remember that, chat, don't you? Where everybody was locked in their houses. They couldn't go out to even hit their welcome mats. They couldn't even dust out their welcome mats, guys. They couldn't dust out their welcome mats during that particular time, right? Because they were all of us were locked in like prisoners. But that's another story for another time. Anyway, during that particular time, they blew up. They exploded onto the scene, and ended up at the end of the day getting about 4.5 million followers. Again, that is massive. That's a massive amount of people. Anyway, so what they do is they invite mostly women on the panel. You can't even be a guest on this panel unless you are part of the show or if you are a female. And they basically have these debates. They usually debate about feminism and traditional values and trad wife things and all of that. Okay. Yes, the lockdowns were brutal. They absolutely were, and unnecessary. But like I said, we'll talk about that later. Anyway, I don't want to get shut down the first episode. You know what I'm saying? A brother's not trying to get shut down. Okay, I'm not trying to get shut down here for the first episode. Okay, maybe if we get to episode 100, if we get there, maybe. But the first episode, I'm not trying to nuke the first episode. All right, let's get back to action here. So let's see here. So Andrew Wilson is one of the I guess you can call him a frequent guest. They have several guests that come in frequently at the Whatever podcast, and they essentially talk about dating. They talk about relationships. They talk about all of these things. And from time to time, particularly because Andrew Wilson is Greek Eastern Orthodox, they sometimes touch on religion. Now, if you don't think that this individual, Andrew Wilson, is not influential, you got another thing coming. He has a podcast show called The Crucible, and I think they might be close to 1 million followers. They might be close. They're getting there. He runs a tight ship over there. Again, they talk about the same topics here that the Whatever podcast talks about: traditional values, masculinity, femininity, or feminism, rather. His wife is more on talking about female issues and things like that. Her name eludes me at this point, but they run a tight ship over there as well. So they're pretty locked in, okay? If you don't think that this guy has influence, you got another thing coming. I mean, just the other day, there was a clip where essentially a guy wrote into the Whatever podcast and basically had said, he wanted to read more about the Eastern Orthodox religion because he was thinking about converting to the religion. That is the influence of the Whatever podcast. It is massive, and that cannot be understated. Okay. Okay. So, what I want to do is I want to respond to a couple of things here. I'm going to tell. There's one particular statement of Andrew Wilson that I want to focus on for this particular podcast. I want to focus on it. Okay. But I do want to make a couple of comments because he does say some things that are rather interesting that I want to touch on concerning their views as they're going back and forth. These two women over here, they're again dialoguing with him about religion, and so I want to touch on some things here, and then we'll get back into action, and then we'll continue on. So let's go ahead and jump in, and then we'll hit it. Okay, Andrew, you can talk now. Okay, well, I'll let you speak here. Here we go.
I chop it up this way, okay? Most Orthodox would just say everything that's not Orthodox is Protestant. But I just chop it up to there is Protestantism. These are all of the branches of Christianity which came from Martin Luther after the schism. And then there's Catholicism, which came from Orthodoxy after the schism. And then there's Orthodoxy, the original Church of Christ. So that's how I would view it, right?
So how do you... I mean, I've read most of the Old Testament. I haven't finished it, some of the new one. But when it comes to science and religion, I know that's always like such an annoying topic. But how do you justify the Bible through that?
Well, science can't make claims about the metaphysical. Like science can't tell you if there are or not ghosts.
I want to make just a brief comment about what he said concerning what she's asking about science and religion and how they are impactful. First of all, science is a methodology. Okay, science is a methodology. Think about the term scientific method. Science is a procedure. It is a methodology that is utilized to evaluate, analyze, and assess the material world. That is science. Okay? Now, undergirding the methodology, there are philosophical presuppositions that undergird the scientific method. Okay? You can't get around these, okay? You can't get around them. One such presupposition or one such preloaded assumption, essentially, about the scientific method is that creation is orderly. It's functional. You cannot conduct a scientific methodological study in a world or a reality that is random. You can't do that. Okay, because you certainly can't repeat things, right? Let's say if a person does an experiment or does a observation or investigation using the scientific method, and a person would want to repeat it, we would have to assume that the outcome would be different than what that the first person came up with if the reality that we lived in was random. Okay, that's one of the assumptions of the scientific method. Okay, so the method itself, or science, is a methodology. It is not a philosophy. It's undergirded by philosophy for sure, but it is not a philosophy. It is a method. It is a procedure. All right. And by the way, what eludes me, and like I said, we'll talk about this on my Renewed Mind podcast too. So if you want to if you want to go check that out. By the way, speaking of which, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Okay. If you're enjoying the live stream so far, I've only been doing it for 25 minutes, guys. All right. If you enjoy the live stream, wherever you're watching, we're on Facebook, we're on YouTube, we're on Rumble, we're on X, guys. We're all over the place. Michael, I know you're still with me. You're on YouTube. Thank you for watching. I appreciate it. Please subscribe if you enjoy this content, if you enjoy the revelry, the kind of the reverent kind of thing. You know, we're unloosening our tie here for this one. But anyway, I wanted to mention that that science is a methodology. Okay, the Bible instructs us philosophically. Okay, philosophically. The Bible instructs us and tells us that creation was ordered, it was designed, there was purpose, there's functionality, all of these sorts of things, right? The Bible underscores this. So, and by the way, we seem to miss this a lot, that the scientific method was actually created or established by a believer, by a Christian, okay? It eludes me how individuals who don't believe that there's a God that exists and that he's created and ordered certain things steals the scientific method and tries to disprove God using a method that Christians came up with. Tell me how ridiculous that is. How ridiculous is that? We're going to take your stuff and try to disprove God with the very thing that you guys came up with. Isn't that crazy? Isn't that crazy? You know, put a 1 down in the chat if you think that's crazy. I mean, to me, that's ridiculous, right? That is absolutely goofy to do. So anyway, science is a methodology. It is a method, it is a procedure that we use to observe the natural world and natural phenomena, okay? And you can't get around that. Okay, let's continue.
No.
It can only test whether or not there are or not ghosts here,
But
right?
it can't
But it's not going to make ought claims, right? It's not going to make any. It just doesn't test for that. So,
right.
If I wanted, so if you're doing a scientific experiment, it's got to be falsifiable, right? That's what makes it. So, the thing is we're going to start with an observation. In this case, you're going to observe. You think there's a ghost. Let's say you think there's one, right? So then your hypothesis is like, I don't know, there's an ethereal realm and this person hasn't passed on yet, right? Something like this. And then you're going to conduct an experiment. Let's say you go and you get equipment and you come up with electronic voice phenomenon, right? And you're trying to catch the spirit's voice on that or some shit, right? So,
oh man, I ain't afraid of no ghosts. Whenever he brought this up, that's what came into my eye. I ain't afraid of no ghosts. Let's continue here.
You can even say like ghost hunting could be a rigorous scientific endeavor. It doesn't sound like one though, does it? You know what I mean?
No, ghost hunting cannot be a rigorous scientific endeavor. It cannot be. Because again, the scientific method, it was used and established to observe natural phenomena, materialistic phenomena, right? If I take this pen and I drop it, right? How fast will it hit the ground, right? That's kind of the idea. That's what the scientific method sought to answer. Um, by the way, science and philosophy way back in the day used to be married to one another. They were very close. Whereas over time, philosophy branched off, and science was now concerned, of course, about the natural universe and the phenomena. Um, and then philosophy tried to seek to answer the big questions like who am I, why am I here, and things like that. Okay. Um, yes. Let's go to the chat here for a second. I want to get the comments, man. Michael, man, you are talking, man, a mile a minute, man. I love it. I appreciate it. You mentioned when it comes to the scientific revolution and the scientific method, you mentioned boom. Thank you. What we call the scientific revolution was launched by men who believed in the God of the Bible. That is absolutely 100% true, and that is irrefutable. That's irrefutable. You cannot. I mean, and not even the scientists back then, right? But also the musicians. Okay, not the artists back then too. They were very, very intentional about the artistry that they made too, because they understood that the artistry reflected nature, which in turn they presupposed that God was the best artist. And so they purposefully created, studied their skill set to mimic that, right? Which is why you find in some of the artists, the art and the pieces at this time were extraordinary, right? That is awesome. Mike also writes this. Wow, I haven't seen this clip before. Is this the calm before the storm or something? He seems to be a lot more measured and respectful than usual. Yeah, this one right here didn't make the clips, Mike. This one didn't make the clips. Right, this one didn't make the clips. Again, when you farm clips, you got to get the most salacious, most juicy. You got to get those, right, so that they get viral, right? But this particular debate, this particular episode was pretty even keeled. I mean, I think the girls that were there, they kind of knew that Andrew Wilson's kind of like that. So if they played it real calm, he would be real calm with them, right? So this didn't make the clips, unfortunately. But yeah, let's continue though. Let's get back into action because we still haven't gotten to the top, the one thing I want to talk about yet. Let's go.
It's not really designed to answer those kinds of questions. That's not what it's there to do.
I just mean in terms of like, it says the Earth was created 6,500 years ago or something.
Well, that's young Earth creationism, but
isn't
the thing
that
is,
part of...
the thing is like there are people who fight over young Earth or old Earth creation. I've always considered it to be a silly fight to have because it really has nothing to do with the point. So the Bible warns us not to adhere to endless genealogies, so that we don't get bogged down in nonsensical questions like that.
Wait, what? Wait, did you hear that? Hey, y'all, did you hear that? Hold on for a second. Wait. Did you hear this guy? Did you hear this guy? Uh-oh. Oh, boy. Here we go. Did you hear this guy? Wait, let me play this again. Let me play this again, y'all. Let's rewind the tape. All right? Let's rewind the tape. Let's go back. I want to go back to this particular thing here. Did you hear what he said? Did you hear what this man said? I want to go back here. Let me go back a little bit.
Right? It's just not. There are.
I mean, in terms of like, it says the Earth was created 6,500 years ago or something.
Well, that's young Earth creationism, but
isn't
the thing
that
is,
part of...
the thing is like there are people who fight over young Earth or old Earth creation. I've always considered it to be a silly fight to have because it really has nothing to do with the point. So the Bible warns us not to adhere to endless genealogies, so that we don't get bogged down in nonsensical questions like that, right? It's just not that important from the Christian purview, whether the Earth is 6,000 years old or not.
Well, maybe not, but
What? What? Are you kidding me? Are you serious? Are you saying that it's just not important from the Christian purview? That's not important. Oh my. Oh my. Oh my, Mr. Wilson. Mr. Wilson. Mr. Wilson! Are you sure about that? Are you sure? Now, granted, he is right that there has been a long debate about whether or not the Earth is 1,000 years old plus is 1,000,000 years old or 1,000,000,000 years old or whatever the case is, right? You know, yeah, I understand the challenge here. Okay. Now, I myself am a young Earth creationist. I'm not going to make any qualms about that. Okay. I'm a young Earth guy. Okay. I'm going to lay it all out here. Okay. I'm going to lay it all out here on the Renew Mind podcast, but there is a reason for that. And it's not just because I had a flag, right, that said, creation of the world, and that there were two hills, and there was one that said old Earth, one that said young Earth, and I flipped a coin and it landed like, you know, young Earth, and I went, you know what? I think that my flag is there. I wanted to be young, I wanted to be old Earth, but the coin didn't flip this direction, so I'm just gonna put my flag on the young Earth hill, and there it is. There are some reasons as to why young Earth makes the most sense. Okay, let's flip it. Let me go to this. Let me go to the scriptures. By the way, this is Andrew Wilson's terrible, no good, very bad comment. This comment is awful. It is awful, irrespective of where you land. It is awful because he presupposes that God's word does not care about this. How would he know this? And then he uses "don't get bogged down into endless genealogies" as if that text speaks about the creation of the world. Okay, I want to lay out the reason as to why I am convinced that that young Earth is the way to go. But even so, even more than that, I want to lay out why his comment is misguided. Let me do this. Let me say that. Let me do this again. Let me put this up and read again so you can hear it, and then we're going to talk scripture. Let me do this again.
The point. So,
by the way, if you like
to answer those kinds of questions,
if you enjoy the content, please like the video, please subscribe. Please, if you like the video and you like the interaction, please subscribe. Yes, all these arguments about the age of the universe don't refute it either. This is Mike from the chat. God created things mature. He didn't just plant seeds and let them grow. He created a garden. He made it a mature universe. Well, he certainly did create the universe, right? And he created the heavens and the earth, and he created it in its fullness. Right? As a matter of fact, if we read Genesis 1, when he spoke, right, the vegetation was created like that. And as you mentioned, Mike, it was created in mature. You had full trees, full bushes, right? Full plants, full fruit trees, right? They didn't just grow over time. They were instantly made, right? So yes, that is exactly right. It wasn't, it wasn't planted in the ground and watered and all that stuff, and then all of a sudden you see the, it didn't just sprout up like that. He spoke and boom, right? You had all of these full trees with full fruit and full vegetation and all of that stuff, right? But let's go ahead and get back to what he said here. All right, let's get back to what he said here because this is important.
Questions. That's not what it's there to do.
I just mean in terms of like, it says the Earth was created 6,500 years ago or something.
Well, that's young Earth creationism, but
Isn't
the thing
that
is,
part of?
the thing is like there are people who fight over young Earth or old Earth creation. I've always considered it to be a silly fight to have because it really has nothing to do with the point. So the Bible warns us not to adhere to endless genealogies so that we don't get bogged down in nonsensical questions like that, right? It's just not that important from the Christian purview, whether the Earth is 6,000 years old or not.
Well, maybe not, but
it's not that important. It's not that important. It's not that important from the Christian worldview. Andrew. Andrew. Oh, you're breaking my heart, man. It's not important from a Christian worldview. Well, I don't know if, Andrew, you've read your Bible lately. Let's go to a couple of texts here, shall we? Just to kind of underscore the point here. If you don't necessarily have to have your Bibles at all. Again, this is a live stream, right? But if you wanted to pull out your Bible, you can do so. I am reading from the New American Standard Version, but you can use whatever version that you like, just as long, except the Message, though. Don't use that. The Message is a mess. Okay, but I will flush this out. I'll flush this out here. Let's go to Exodus 20. Exodus 20. Now, the reason why old Earth exists is because they view the word yom, that is the Hebrew word that is translated day, as an indiscriminate period of time. Okay? And they just so happen to, when they read the book of Genesis and they see one day, second day, third day, they take the word day, yom, in the Hebrew, and they backload it with millions of years, right? So when they read day in the scriptures, it's not a 24-hour period. It is millions of years. That's how they read the text. That's how the old Earth individuals read the text, okay? There are some challenges with that particular view. For example, I'm just going to mention this really quick. In Genesis chapter 1, verses 9 to 13, we have the third day. Okay, there's a challenge here. Let me go ahead and read it real quick, and then I will comment on it at length. It says, then God said, this is verse 9, God creating the heavens and the earth. He says, then God said, let the waters below be gathered into one place, and let the dry land appear. And it was so. God called the dry land earth, and the gathering of the waters he called seas. And God saw that it was good. Then God said, let the earth sprout vegetation, plants yielding seed, and fruit trees on the earth, bearing fruit after their kind, with seed in them. And it was so. The earth brought forth vegetation, plants yielding seed after their kind, and trees bearing fruit with seed in them after their kind. And God saw that it was good. And there was evening and there was morning, a third day. Then God said, verse 14. So we have verse from verses 9 to 13. We see that there's a third day. According to those who are old earth creationists, that day is millions of years. A third, millions of years. Okay? Millions. Maybe even billions. Okay? But certainly millions. So God created the land and the vegetation and then waited millions of years to create what is described in verse 14. Then God said, "Let there be lights in the expanse of the heaven to separate the day from the night. Let them be for signs and seasons, for days and for years, and let them be for lights in the expanse of the heavens to give light upon the earth." And it was so. God made two great lights, the greater light to govern the day, and the lesser light to govern the night. He made the stars also. God placed them in the expanse of the heavens to give light on the earth, and to govern the day and the night, and to separate the light from the darkness. And God saw that it was good. There was evening and there was morning, a fourth day. Now, why would I read that? Because there's a problem scientifically. There's a problem scientifically, y'all. There's a problem scientifically, y'all. There's a problem. I know I keep saying this, but there's a problem, okay? In the third day, if we're going to take this, millions and billions and trillions and quadrillions, whatever, all the illions, right? If we take all of those years, right, what was created on the third day? Plants, vegetation, right? Now, we know by the scientific method, right, by the use of technology and microscopes and things like that, that plants have in them what's called chlorophyll. Not chloroform. That's different. Okay? Chloroform is, used, for, science experiments and sundry things. But chlorophyll, right? Chlorophyll essentially is how plants basically process their food, right? There's a main ingredient, or two main ingredients that plants need in order to grow, right? Or three, actually. They need nutrients from the soil, right? They need water, and they need light. They need light, right? So, riddle me this. How can plants that need light, necessitate light, so that they can make glucose for food, right? How can plants grow if they have no light? Particularly for billions and millions of years, okay? Billions and millions of years. They have no light. No light at all. They would be dead. Done, right? All the plants. Okay? Now, I know that there's some plants that can grow at night, all right? But not as many as they grow during the day, okay? How can a plant grow if it has no light? This is like elementary school. Hey guys, those who are listening, and those who are watching right now, again, like the video, subscribe, share, do what you got to do, right? Do you remember when you learned this? Do you remember when you learned this? Did you learn this in college? Did you learn this in high school? Junior high, maybe? No. You learned this in first grade. This was like right out of preschool, right? Do you remember the experiment? The experiment where you took two seeds, you put them into the ground, you had soil in that little what is that solo cup? Remember that solo cup with soil, and you had to get the lima beans that you didn't like, right? But you bought the lima beans, and you had to put it into the ground, and then you put that napkin over it, and you had to water it, and then there was one you put with water, there was one that you put without water, and you had to see which one would grow, and you put them on the windowsill of the public school. I'm a public school guy. Okay, I went to public school. And I remember doing this way back in public school, in elementary school, where you had to put it into the ground or put it into that solo cup and put it on the windowsill and put it to sunlight, right? And, one would sprout, the other one wouldn't, and you'd have to assess why the other one didn't sprout, the other one did. Isn't that interesting? That's a science experiment, right? That is a systematic thing that you do in a science experiment. It's amazing. It's incredible, right? How can plants grow without sunlight for millions of years? Any takers? I don't, I don't, how do you do that? Yeah. See, this is the issue. Andrew Wilson says that the Bible is not concerned about this. Oh, I would tend to disagree. Hey, you know what? Let's go to Exodus. I want to go to Exodus 20 right quick. Exodus 20. Exodus 20 here. This is interesting because, again, God mentions something to the nation of Israel when he's on top of Mount Sinai doing his thunder, lightning, and all that stuff. He kind of shows up to them. They get all scared and things like that. And not to say I wouldn't blame them. I'd be scared too, to be honest with you. So I'm not even going to front. All right, I'm not even going to front, guys. I'm not even going to front. Okay, I'd be out. It's not, I'll tell you that right now. But anyway, we see that God communicates with the whole entire nation on the Mount Sinai, on not Mount Sinusitis, okay? Mount Sinai, all right? So, I'm going to read this. This is Exodus 20, verse. Let's start with verse 8. Verse 8. This is talking about the Sabbath rest. Every 7 days, the nation of Israel was supposed to rest and remember God in his creation, how he made everything, right? This is what God says to the nation of Israel here. He says, verse 8, chapter 20. He says, remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all of your work. But the seventh day is a Sabbath of the Lord your God. In it you shall not do any work, you, your son or your daughter, your male or female servant, or your cattle, or your sojourner, who stays with you. Why does he institute this? He tells us in the next statement, for in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth, and the sea and all that is in them, and rested on the seventh day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and made it holy. See, Yom by itself can mean a day, or it can mean an indiscriminate amount of time. For instance, there's a phrase called the day of the Lord. The day of the Lord. That phrase points us, it's not a day. It's not like a day that the Lord has, right? That's not what it's talking about. That it just means a indiscriminate time period where all of these things occur. However, when you connect Yom, the Hebrew word translated day, with a number, like 1 day, second day, particularly if it is an ordinal number or a cardinal number, like first day, second day, third day, fourth day, fifth day, sixth day, seventh day. When you tie a numerical a number to the word Yom, that is usually a 24-hour period. So God instituted the Sabbath because he made the earth in 6 days. This is why we also have a week, 7 days. This is why we have 7 days and not 12 days, 20 days, a 30-day week. That would be kind of interesting, huh? Have a 30-day week. This is why we have 7 days, is because God created the world in 6 days, rested on the 7th day, and there you go. Okay? And they were 24-hour periods. They were not millions of years. So, based upon just this alone, okay, there are other things that we can point to that lean towards it being a young creation. But this here is a data point. A data point that makes young Earth more likely than a old Earth. Okay? Because God created the world in 6 24-hour periods. And so he institutes Israel to work for 6 days and rest on the 7th day. He didn't institute them to work 6 million years and rest for 1 million years. Yeah. See there you go. There you go. That screwy language, right? Andrew Wilson, you're fired. Now let's talk about this phrase, endless genealogies here. Let's talk about this here. I want to talk about this phrase, endless genealogies, guys. Andrew Wilson, I appreciate the effort. I really do, but you kind of were misaligned there for a second. We had to straighten you out. You know what I'm saying? At least if you're going to say that the Bible doesn't think that this is important, you might want to do some homework first. Okay? Let's go endless genealogies here. Let's talk about this particular text here. So this endless genealogies, he mentions this, and I'm going to mention this just briefly. Okay. This is found in 1 Timothy. Okay, 1 Timothy chapter 1, verses 1 to 4. Okay. I would like to read this to you. Yes, Michael again, chiming in. Fired. Oh man, I'm having too much fun here. 1 Timothy chapter 1, verses 1 to 4. I'm going to read just a verse. I'm going to start at verse 3 because statements 1 and 2, verses 1 and 2 is just the introduction that Paul writes. Now, Paul was a somewhat of a confidant of Timothy. He loved Timothy. He was somewhat of a father in Christ to Timothy. And Timothy was a young elder. And they had a really deep relationship, a real deep interaction with each other. And Paul writes this at verse 3 of 1 Timothy chapter 1. He says, "As I urged you upon my departure to Macedonia, remain on at Ephesus, so that you may instruct certain men not to teach strange doctrines, nor to pay attention to myths, an endless genealogy which gives rise to mere speculation rather than furthering the administration of God, which is by faith." Let me ask you a question here. I'll read verse 4 again, and then I want to ask you a question. It says, "Nor pay it." I'll start at verse 3 actually. "Remain on at Ephesus, so that you may instruct certain men not to teach strange doctrines, nor to pay attention to myths and endless genealogies, which give rise to mere speculation, rather than furthering the administration of God, which is by faith." Let me ask you, Andrew Wilson, please come here. Have a seat here. Let me ask you a question. When God in His Word tells us something that is certain, is that speculation? Speculation means that we make things up, we create things. imaginings, machinations of the mind, right? Is 6-day creation speculation? Is that speculation, Andrew? I would say that your statement that God doesn't care about that is speculation. You speculated that God doesn't care about that and used the text that does not underscore your point. Endless genealogies, this is not, genealogies has to do with physical progeny, right? That I belong to this person, I was born from this person, was born from this person, and this, that, and the other, and that makes me special. That's endless genealogies. There are genealogies in the Bible, by the way. There's tons of them. Are those just speculation? No, the genealogies that are there are important. They're important because this goes right back to Genesis 3, where the seed of the woman would crush the head of the serpent. They're taking roll of the genealogies because we're following the scarlet thread to the genealogy of Jesus, which is why genealogies are found in Matthew chapter 1, which is why genealogies are found in Luke 3, right, where the genealogy is traced back from Abraham to Christ. These are important things. So no, this text, this verse that he cites, that Andrew Wilson, that you cite, Andrew, look, I understand. Okay, I get it. You know, you're a busy guy. You're a busy guy, man. But you can't use this text for this particular subject, because God has communicated certainty about the way that creation was made and the time too. Again, this does not automatically prove a young earth, that God created the world in 6 days, but it certainly does lean towards that. If God created the earth in 6 literal days and not millions of years, it certainly does knock a leg off of the stool of old earth creationism. It certainly does. And for you, Andrew Wilson, and anyone else too, to argue that God is not concerned about that when he gives specifics not only of how he created the world itself, but the time? I would say, Andrew, you need to go back and you need to reread your Bible. Reread the scriptures, brother. All right? You got to read them. Okay? You can't just make comments like that. Okay? Because this particular argument, as important as it is not speculation. Old earth is speculation because it doesn't pay attention to the details of the text. And your statement that you made that God says that it's not important is also speculation too. In the words of the great prophet whom will not be named, you're fired. Oh man, right out the gate, man. Andrew Wilson, I appreciate you, buddy. I hope to meet you one day, and we can get it in. Maybe we could sit down and chat a little bit and do it over at the Whatever podcast. I don't know. I'm not that big to do it, but I'd certainly appreciate that. All right, now get out of here. Oh man, this is fun. I love the live stream. I love it. I appreciate it. I enjoy you guys who have jumped in and have interacted with me. Again, we are here live on Facebook. We're here on YouTube. We're on Rumble. We're on X. We're doing a thing. I mean, we're all over the place, man. You see why this is so important? I hope you see why this is so important. These individuals have tons of influence, all right? And, I guess you can say that's a blessing in one sense, because that is the mode really of social media. If you have a message, if you are very charismatic, if you have, a disposition, you can gather a lot of individuals, and people admire individuals like this for sure, right? And that's certainly a blessing. I mean, I certainly wouldn't be doing this, if I didn't think that there would be some influence and people that would benefit from this for sure, right? We always want to put our time in what we invest the most in our resources and things like that. But at the same time, these individuals who are speaking, they may not be saying things that align with Scripture, okay? They may not be saying things that Scripture agrees with, doesn't agree with, things like that. We have to examine, right? And this is an encouragement for all you guys out here too. The whole purpose of this too is to encourage you guys to check all of us on social media, including me, including me. You know what? Again, Michael, you are always welcome here. He mentioned awesome podcast, brother. Excited to watch the channel grow. Didn't mean to hijack the chat. You know what? You can hijack it anytime, man. You are the first person that has chatted on this live stream, so you get the gold card. You can hijack this chat anytime you want. You can comment anytime. You get the gold pass VIP lounge chair, sit right in the front row soak zone. You get it. So don't ever be a stranger, Mike. I really appreciate the interaction. And again, you're always welcome to chat, as well as everyone else as well. I really appreciate that too. So this is kind of experimental, just to let you guys know concerning this particular this particular live stream. Really, it's experimental. If you guys would like to see more of this, again, join, subscribe. I call it advocate. I don't like the word subscribe because it makes it feel like it's very impersonal. When you subscribe to the channel, you're advocating on behalf of good content for us, that you find this content useful, you find it entertaining, you find it interesting. And so advocate, like, share, pass it around. Hey, this black guy here, he's just yelling at Andrew Wilson. He's yelling, but he's bringing up good points. He's bringing up great points. If you think that this content would help anybody else kind of share, I really want to engage this space. I really want to engage this space. I will call it the clear pill space. The clear pill. You know what I'm saying? Because we offer clarity on issues and subjects and topics that, to be honest with you, really need a lot of clarity. So clear pill. How about that, right? The clear pill space. I will trademark that. All right. You got the red pill, you got black pill, and you got the clear pill. We're doing the clear pill space. That is going on a t-shirt. I am part of the clear pill space. I'm part of the clear pill movement. I'm part of the clear pill group, right? We are clear pilled here. All right, that is the goal. All right, that is the objective. There we go. Very good. I'm actually going to put that on a t-shirt too, by the way. I'm going to do that as soon as we get people watching, hopefully. That is going on a t-shirt. All right, don't steal it, because then I'm coming after you. All right. Well, anyway, I thought about doing this every other week, twice a month, and until such time this, if it picks up steam, and things like that. So if you enjoy it, again, please subscribe, join, like, share, follow, do all of that stuff, and that lets me know that you guys want more content like this. I also have the Renewed Mind podcast as well, which comes out every Wednesday at 12 p.m. Every Wednesday. That's not live, but it's uploaded on Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Music, and we cover counseling, psychology, and the biblical perspective, and looking at counseling from a biblical worldview. We've already got 35 episodes out, or I'm sorry, 33. 33 episodes out right now, and so if you want to take a look at that as well. I also have a website, drluthersmith.org. You can check that out as well. We've got articles there, and all sorts of things there for your use and your resources. So please check that out and feel free to. You can also, again, comment. You can write, email me at the Renewed Mind Podcast at gmail.com. That is the Renewed Mind Podcast at gmail.com. You can also connect with us on Facebook at the Renewed Mind Podcast. That is the RE-NYOO-ED Mind, at the Renewed Mind. And you can also reach us on X at the Renewed Mind on X, and on Instagram, TikTok, okay, and Lord's Book. Yes, we are on TikTok. Now, nobody has seen our TikToks because TikTok doesn't like us, but we're going to post up there anyway. We're going to post up there anyway. And there I have clips of the show and things like that. So if you feel so inclined, you can follow us there as well. Well, I think that is going to do it for this episode. I don't want to keep you all. I know that it's a Saturday. It's nice outside. It's nice out where I am. I hope it's nice out where you are. And again, grace and peace to you guys. And I will see you in the next couple of weeks when we're actually going to be, I believe, we're going to visit Fresh and Fit. Fresh and Fit, you're up next to bat. Yeah, we got to talk about Fresh and Fit. We got to do it. So, grace and peace to you guys. I hope that you guys have a great, great afternoon, and I will talk to you later. Okay, bye-bye.